Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's edition of the Maconi Setup Shop A-Fix Tutorials. This week we are looking at the Talladega Super Speedway, so strap in and let's get to it. As always with these Super Speedways, there's not really a whole lot to go over and nothing I haven't said in videos before. At this point, kind of just repeating a lot of what I've said, so if you haven't watched any of the other Maconi videos on the Super Speedway track guides, um, then welcome. This should be new information. But for those of you that have watched these before, unfortunately, there's only so much you can go through with this super speedway stuff. Um, for qualifying, I'm just showing you the difference between fifth gear and fourth gear. As you can see by the flags, what little of you can see of the flags, I got a straight headwind down the back straightaway. So this is going to be a perfect example of what I really wanted to talk about for qualifying. I do believe that if you have a headwind going straight down the back straightaway like this, fourth gear is going to be the ideal gear that you want to use. And if you have a tailwind going down the back straightaway, then you're going to want to use fifth gear because you're going to run out of gear. And also being in fifth gear, you're going to be more in that power band range. So it's a win-win if you have a tailwind. But if you've got a headwind, as you can see, it is pretty much just a parachute. The RPM just aren't high enough in fifth gear when you have this headwind. Um, as you can see, like I'm just holding 177 pretty much the entire time down the back straightaway. So gear choice is going to be important. You just have to pay attention to what the wind's doing um, and make your decision off of that. Leaving pit road is crucial. Even though you're full throttle, you do not want to spin the tires, and the easiest place to spin the tires is when you're in first gear. So if you want to go back to the start of this video and just watch the throttle input, or wait for this lap to be finished and see how I leave pit road, um, recommended, because that's where you could lose some time, and you don't necessarily lose time on spinning the tires. You lose time throughout your lap because with this tire, um, the hotter it gets, the tackier it gets, and the tackier it is, the more grip you're going to have. And when you're wide open at a track like this, you're naturally going to slow down because of all the grip that you have. Okay, hopefully I did explain that as good as I could, but that's the reasoning for wanting to get a clean exit here. So you see, once I get going, again, you're going to be a little farther back, probably just off to the right where my mouse is, a little farther back. But it's the same thing. You're just going to get a little bit more of a head start, essentially, from the pit box. Rolling into it, first gear, half to three-quarter throttle, and then once you get into second gear, you're full throttle the rest of the way. Okay. Um, Leaving pit road, you want to stay on this first lane. Okay, it's banked here. If you go one lane lower, closer to the grass, it's flat. So not only are you going to be going slower naturally because you don't have the banking, but you're also going to put a lot of unnecessary heat in the tires. Okay, as soon as you get off of pit road here, you just want to work your way up to the dotted line. You don't have to rush to get up here. Again, it's all about keeping the heat out of the tires. And then we're just staying about a lane off the wall here, okay? We don't want to get much closer than this because you're going to get that aero proximity drag, all right? It really helps for handling at, mile and a half places, or even a track like Auto Club, for example, where you really get to rip the fence. Even Homestead, places like that. Daytona, Talladega, even Atlanta. You do not want to get that close to the wall because it's going to kill your getting up to speed, okay? If you really wanted to run the fence and maximize your speed, when you come to the line, I would bet you're going to be doing about 173 miles an hour. And at that point, your lap's already dead because you're 4 to 5 miles an hour off. Okay, and then you can see here the difference in fourth gear. Like, look at my speed. I was holding 178 pretty steady. Um, Even going down the back straightaway here, if I remember correctly, I think I flirt with 178. But the speeds, because of the higher RPM, you're just able to generate more speed through the headwind. You're able to punch through just a little bit because the motor's working so hard. Um, but that's just the difference between fourth and fifth gear. It kind of goes back and forth. I mean, some places, I say some places, sometimes when we race here at Talladega and Daytona, it's like a coin toss. Sometimes fifth gear is just significantly better. Sometimes fourth gear is better. But again, for qualifying, the wind's always the biggest factor, right? The wind is going to dictate everything. You could hit the absolute perfect lap, and you could still be half a tenth to a tenth off just because you caught a bad wind compared to somebody who went out sooner or whatever and got a good win, and it sucks, but realistically, for a place like Daytona Talladega, qualifying doesn't necessarily mean much other than pit road selection. Um, Pitting under green, you know, since they've moved the first pit stall back, before the number one pit stall used to be right at the end of pit road, so you kind of be at a disadvantage on a green flag stop. Now it's far enough back to where it doesn't really matter. It doesn't hurt you as much. You can still get up to pit road speed limit uh, right around the time you exit pit road, so you're not at a huge disadvantage. But under caution, you want that number one pit box. And again, in my opinion, being up front is one of the best ways to stay out of all the mess. So that's what these guides are for Daytona and Talladega, is to try to help you guys start up front and get that track position. Okay, guys, one last thing to mention here before I close out this video. If you watch my getting up to speed laps going through the tri-oval, I know I've talked about this before, but again, for anybody who might be new here, just to go over it, um, notice how I'm almost falling down the tri-oval. Okay, that's one of the things that I learned a long time ago, how to keep my speed up coming to the line. It's different than Daytona in a sense, but Daytona you want to do the same thing. The more wheel input you have means the more angle in the tires you have, which is going to naturally scrub speed. Okay, so when you qualify, and even when you're racing it around here, you want to have as little wheel input as possible. You almost want to have as much wheel as you need. Okay, there's no need to go very far with the wheel. All right, and especially for qualifying here, you see how steady my wheel is throughout the corners. It's even smoother when I'm going through the tri-oval. Um, Believe it or not, like I actually focus really, really hard when I'm setting up the tri-oval, because I want to just fall down, use that banking to like push me down the hill a little bit, and have as little wheel input as possible. That way I can kind of fall to the bottom line, let the car drift up ever so slightly right to where I want to start, because I want to start right on that dotted line, and that's going to give me a nice little arc for turn one, and that pretty much sets up my lap. Alright guys, that'll just about do it for this video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything you want to discuss, please leave a comment down below if you feel like it, and I will gladly get back to them throughout the week. If you find that this video was helpful, please consider leaving a like. And as always, if you have not already subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you guys can see these videos every Monday when they're posted to the Maconi YouTube page. Alright guys, best of luck this week, and we'll see it on the track.